Hi there, everyone. My name is Jan Olsson. I'm working at the Swedish Police, Swedish National Police, at the Swedish Cybercrime Center. I'm here today to talk a little bit about cybercrime and why it's so difficult to handle all these crimes that appears due to digitalization and the consequences of everyone can be anonymous and get in touch with everyone around the world. And that's, of course, making it much more difficult for us. So let's start this with sharing the screen. Hopefully you will see what I want you to see. Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay, let's start. I will start this presentation by trying to calculate what the costs are for the society due to these types of crimes. And of course, if you use Google, you won't find any numbers for Sweden, for example, but I think in the UK, they are taking it much more seriously, and they do these types of calculations every year, actually. They say for the UK, only for the UK, due to fraud. Fraud is just one of the cyber crimes that's out there. And due to fraud, the cost for the society is in total 190 billion pounds a year. And if you divide it by the number of citizens in the UK during 2019 in December, you find out that somewhere around 3,400 euros per inhabitant per citizen due to the costs of fraud. And of course, if you take that number and calculate it with the population of your own country, I mean, in Sweden, we are approximately 10.3 million inhabitants. And if I multiply that number with 3,400 euros, I get, as you see there, somewhere around 36 billion euros, the cost for the Swedish society. And I've done the same calculation for Norway, Denmark, and Finland. And of course, you can do it yourself for your own country. Just multiply the number of citizens with the number of the costs, namely 3,400 euros approximately. And of course, it's not easy to do these types of calculation because we are different from other kinds of people. But I've looked into the number of computers per citizen, the numbers of internet accesses per inhabitant, and how much we are out there on the internet, buying stuff on the internet, and so on and so forth. And when I checked with the UK and compared it with the Swedish population, we were pretty much the same, and we have the same legislation. So somehow I think we can compare ourselves with each other. So the sum should be around this amount of money, and this is a lot of money. It's 6.5% of the Swedish BNP, or GDP, as I say in the UK. So if you look at fraud as a company, if you just playing around with the thought that fraud is a company, then fraud is the largest company in Sweden or in the UK or whatever country around the world. Actually, I think the fraud is the largest beneficiary, I almost said, but they are stealing our money, because all this money should be in healthcare and elderly care and so on, in our schools, instead of the pockets of the fraudsters. So we have a major problem with this. And EU have responded to it. They say that we need to construct legislation because of the number of data breaches that appear at organizations and companies. Too much data are out there. We are not safe enough. We are not keeping the data safe enough in companies and organizations. Therefore, GDPR. And at the same time, approximately at the same time, they also forced us to implement Payment Service Directive 2. And what's that? Yeah, well, and it's like this: because of the number of card not present fraud, and that is a fraud committed by me when I'm using your credit card credentials, namely the credit card number, the expire date, and the CVV code from the back side of your credit card. When I use it to purchase something on e-commerce on the internet, I only use that information, and the merchant only get that information. He doesn't know who is giving him that information. He is only he know that this credit card credential are actually connected to a bank account, and a bank account has enough money to pay for whatever the guy who wanted to buy. So then, of course, you can't demand anymore from him, because he can't do anymore about the situation. He can't. The only thing he can do is see to that he get paid. So, and therefore, card not present fraud, as say, are the single largest fraud we have, at least in Europe. Is the single largest fraud modus operandi that we have in Europe. And of course, EU said that this isn't good enough. You must identify the guy who is using the credit card information. Otherwise, you are not allowed to purchase goods. As you can't work as a merchant on the internet, in e-commerce, or in a regular store with Europeans. That's quite a demand, actually. So what happened is that the banks, at least in Sweden, I can only talk for Sweden, in the banks in Sweden implemented solutions to make it possible to KYC, know your customer. And the solution for Sweden's part was to use bank ID. So if you go to internet merchants today from Sweden, and they want to purchase something, then it's not enough if you're just using the credit card information. You also have to use your bank ID. It's a EIDAS kind of equipment. If you have your bank ID together with your bank card information, then it's okay, you can buy something. Because what happened is, if you see this is as a circle, they steal something when they committed these types of data breaches, and what they steal, then they are using when committing other types of crime, for example, fraud, but also ransomware, whatever. So even if they have your credit card credentials, they can't use them because they don't have your bank ID. And due to this, card not present fraud in Sweden decreased by 40% last year. So 40% less Swedes have been victimized by these types of crime. That's approximately 50,000 individuals in Sweden that didn't got victimized by card not present fraud. So I absolutely love this legislation, this GDPR and Payment Service Directive too. And the data breaches, absolutely, it's always start at data breaches, and then they use the information for several criminal-minded reasons, of course. And also organized crime groups are looking into this, and they're using the information or encrypt the data files on the computers to belonging to companies for state attacks or manipulate campaigns or data breaches to finance terrorism or finance whatever else type of crime they want to. So data breaches are absolutely number one, the first link in a lot of crime chains. And they're using vectors like ransomware or business email compromise or bank trojans and whatever to make it possible to get hold of your data or your money, or both, actually. So I think it's all evil that have happened after World War II. I mean, before there were no computers to breach. And of course, this is this is quite right even today. I mean, it's certainly the truth anyway. So there are two types of companies, the hacked one and those that will be hacked. And I think the companies he thought about, Robert Mueller, back in 2012, they have all been hacked, actually. I don't say that the hack consequences should be always are that large, but absolutely all companies sooner or later will be hacked. And the companies, of course, they are protecting themselves, looking into IT architecture or surveillance and monitoring systems and so on and so forth. That's not my area. I'm looking at the lack of cyber hygiene I mean, it's cybersecurity month right now, or just past the last day of the cybersecurity month. And they are, from ENISA perspective, always looking at cyber hygiene for the last 3 years as the most problematic area, due to the consequences of the lack of cyber hygiene, namely that if I think somewhere between 50-90% of all data breaches starts up with phishing, a social engineering part, phishing, and the consequences of clicking on files that are attached to mails and so on and so forth could be devastating for the company or for yourself. So it doesn't cost anything to get a better cyber hygiene or better awareness among the staff, because you can't divide the two types of crimes that are attacking the citizen or that are attacking companies, because it's the citizen that works in the companies that's open up for the criminals to get inside the server hall within the company. So it's always the people itself that they are attacked in the beginning. And of course, it doesn't cost anything to improve your awareness among the staff and policy and so on and so forth. And that's the question. What happens? I mean, we need digitalization, we want it, we demand it actually. We want to be able to purchase something on the internet as easy as possible. But the problem is that we as Homo sapiens can't handle it at all. I mean, the criminals, they see that the bank ID or Swish or whatever function or application there is in the bank world, they are totally safe themselves. They are not hacked yet anyway. So what do? They hack us as citizens instead, as customers. They are biohacking us. So they're making us using this safe equipment in a wrong manner, in a wrong way. And by that, getting access to our internet banking, our bank accounts, and our money, of course. So we need and demand digitalization, but can't handle it. That's the ugly truth, actually. And if you look at attack vectors, they are exact similar, every one of them. And even if you call them phishing, smishing, vishing, whatever that ends with the ing, it doesn't matter, because they are all have the same modus operandi. They are from someone you know, or a company you trust, as if you see in this example, PostNord, the postal office in Sweden. They are from something that you can recognize, and by that you are already in your mind convinced that this is from a safe. It could be from a brother or from PostNord. It's totally safe. And then they want you, they are telling you that, okay, you're getting money, or you're going to pay something, whatever, something that makes you interested. And for the ability to see what they are offering, you have to click on a link or whatever. It's the same with smishing, and it's the same with wishing, actually. But then there is a voice talking to you on the phone, but they're using spoofing to make you believe that the caller is actually from your bank or whatever. So this is the entrance to your or your company's money or future, actually. So if you look at the phishing attacks, I mean, they are increasing hundreds and hundreds of percent every year. I think in Sweden, 1/3 of all the population have received a phishing mail for the last year. And I'm convinced that that's much more than 1/3. So they will keep on going, because it doesn't cost them anything, and they can reach out to millions of people by using your laptop. So even if it's 1 out of 10,000 that are falling for this scam, they will be rich. And there's no problem to find someone to send this email to. I mean, in this place, this year-old report, actually, I think it's 3.2 billion unique email addresses for sale on the dark web. So, I mean, they can contact almost every man or woman around the globe by just using their computer. So, of course, they will continue with this. This is quite interesting, because this is the largest ransomware scam there was, I think it was back in 2014 when every country in the Europe got this in their country's language, of course. This is for the Swedish population. It says that, hey, you can't use your computer anymore. And that's because we, the Swedish police, have seen that you are surfing on porn or child pornography or something like that. And they offer you a possibility here. You can go to jail for 10 or 20 years, or you can pay a small fee, 1,000 Swedish crowns, that's 100 euros. So of course, those guys who did receive these types of phishing mail, or in this case, ransomware, they paid for it because it was easier to pay 100 euro than to talk about this at home. Maybe they had been porn surfing, what I know. But this wasn't the solution, because they used UCash and PaySafe card as transactions. And of course, so that we could identify some of these guys behind it and put them in jail. So it wasn't that fun anymore. So they left these types of transaction, but the ransomware kept on going, but not towards civilian citizens. They changed direction towards companies. And this is the largest in media in Sweden. It's only a couple of months old, this one, where they attacked Coop, or it wasn't just Coop. They attacked they attacked the equipment, software used by Coop in the point of sales terminals, so that they couldn't open up their point of sale terminals. The ransomware hit there. So Coop was just one out of 1,200 companies affected of this Reveal Gangs attack, ransomware attack. So what happened is that the guys behind this attack, they had no idea that Coop was Coop. They didn't know about Coop. And we in Sweden, it's one of our largest store chains of stores that are selling food to us. So I mean, all of a sudden, by using ransomware, they can almost kill the possibility for some of the citizens to get food. So this is absolutely a giant threat towards us in every country around the world. It doesn't matter if this, in this case, the food we are missing, it could be the energy, like in the US pipeline attack, or when they put a ransomware to the energy production towards Johannesburg for a couple of years ago. So they are using this in a way that make them certain that these who are hit by ransomware will most probably pay, and they will pay a lot of money. And this is the sums for the Swedish companies. It says that in Sweden, the usual losses for companies that have been attacked by ransomware is somewhere between 2 and 3 million euros each companies. And if you look at this report from Trusek, who is the largest cybersecurity company working with protecting and helping companies in Sweden and around the world, when they are attacked, or before they are attacked, actually, they say that the largest ransom a company in Sweden paid last year, back in 2019, 2020 it actually was, it is $35 million. It's approximately the same, 30 million euros. So just think of it. I mean, if they can earn this type of money, why should they end what they are doing? And they say, also says that the ransomware attacks skyrocket and estimated to increase 300%. I mean, I have read a report that says 600 and 700%. It depends on what kind of category of companies you're looking at. And of course, they are not always, absolutely not always, but from time to time, when you see these large scale attacks, there are APT groups from different states behind it, and the common modus operandi is that these APT groups are operating from countries that not participate in the cooperation with law enforcement agencies in the western part of the world, if I if I say so. So we have a problem because it's not always the state itself that are attacking us, but it could be an organized crime group within the state that are attacking us, and they are allowed to do that by the government as long as they don't attack companies within the same state. So we can't arrest these guys behind this because I mean, they are protected by the state they are operating from. So that's not the solution. It's not the solution to try to think that we can walk into these countries and just arrest them. It's absolutely never going to happen. So we are doing something else. But this is interesting. I have collected some information from reports, and it says that 74% of companies saying that before they are attacked that they will definitely not pay if they are attacked, and after they have been attacked, 86% says that they have paid. 86% pays after attack, and of these companies that pays, 92% don't get all their data back, and 80% of those who pays will be hit again because they are when they are paying, they are appearing on a kind of shit list, so to speak, that over companies that are exceptionally willing to pay pay the ransom. Therefore, they will be attacked again, of course. And another interesting thing is that 3% of those in the Nordic countries that have been attacked report this to the police. So we can't see any reports within the police that it has happened. And the problem there is if we can't show that this is a major problem, we have all these reports that says that all these companies have lost all this money. We can't get budget or prioritize these types of criminal behavior. Because if we can't show all these victims, we can't get money enough to try to prevent it from accelerate as it does today. So we need the companies to report it to the police. Absolutely, it's a necessity. And I think one major report said that among a certain type of companies, 10% of them had been attacked during 2020. So that means that it probably 10,000 Swedish companies that are attacked, and no more than maybe 150 have reported it to the police. So this is a major problem. Companies, 86% are paying some for getting its files back or decrypted and encrypted. So as long as that happens, they will keep on doing the same types of crimes because it's financing they to go on, and it's also financing other types of crime as terrorism, for example. So it's not the solution to pay, actually. But when we know, when we get the reports, when we can see the situation for what it is, something can actually happen. Even if we can't walk into those countries, you know which countries I mean, we can do other stuff. I mean, if you look at the Emotet takedown in January this year, I mean, Emotet wasn't a ransomware gang. What they did was sending out phishing mails to everyone, and those who clicked on the links were infected by a malware, and that malware was a backdoor opener. So all of a sudden, the guys behind this one created or used a botnet of computers that were open for attacks, but they didn't attack them themselves. They sold these types of computers open with an open backdoor to other organizations that implemented Trojans or ransomware or whatever. I mean, they had a price list for these types of companies. Had it been your or my computer, a couple of bucks maybe to buy it, the access to them. But if they succeeded in open up a backdoor to a larger company's server or computer within the company, then that computer could be worth millions on the black market to get access to. I mean, if we find out that there is a server in Stockholm that are a part of this, we can take it down. Yeah, absolutely, but it won't change anything. What happened here was that quite a few countries gathered together under the umbrella of the Europol and took down a large number of servers that was building up this botnet of computers, so they could make it impossible for this organization to keep on going with his business. So it was a takedown that was successful, and the same has happened if you look at the Reveal group that was attacking, among other companies, Coop in Sweden, FBI, but it was not just FBI, but they took down the server they used on the darknet, among other things. So to speak, make them quite helpless for a while at least. So I think we can do something if we get information, so we can present how a large problem this is. Then we can get resources and so on. But it takes a private-public partnership. There's no law enforcement agency in the world who can manage this alone. We must work together with the private sector. A lot of the knowledge how to do this exists in the private sector. So can we work together much more, cross-border much more, and together with other law enforcement much more, then I think we can do something about the situation. I'm not going to show you this one because the time is running up, but this question is quite interesting, because I mean, who is stupid enough to become misled and victimized by phishing? I mean, I have been participating in speeches and events for 13 or 14 years, so I mean, I can't be misled. I live this, I breathe this. And of course, my wife is number 2 in the world that can't be misled, because she's married to me. So, I mean, that should be certain. But this is a true story. Back in 2017, in the beginning of May, my wife called me. She works at a company selling furniture, and she said that she had received an email from a customer with an invoice attached. And of course, she's the one who's sending out the invoices, not receiving them. So she went a little bit irritated and clicked on the link to this attached invoice. And of course, it was a ransomware. And I thought that was quite funny, because she was my wife. And I thought, this I'm going to use for tens of years in the future. I mean, this is wonderful. So I laughed, not that she heard it, but I laughed for myself. And 2 weeks later, I went to San Francisco to speak at an event there for the federal authorities in the US. And I think every country was there, even China. So it wasn't just me that was speaking, of course, but we were there speaking. And I got there on Friday evening or something like that. So I had a couple of days for myself, and I went down to the harbor. The harbor in San Francisco is quite amazing. I think those of you who have been there agree with me. It's absolutely wonderful. This afternoon, it was maybe 26 degrees. The sun was shining, and there are 500,000 restaurants, outdoor restaurants in the harbor area. So I went to one of them, sat down and took a couple of beers, and reflected that, okay, in Sweden it's work hour and I'm drinking ice cold beer, quite nice, absolutely. But I looked around, and I was sitting on my table alone with a couple of empty beers, and at all the other tables there were 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people talking to each other, socialized, and I'm sitting here by myself drinking beer. Felt kind of crazy. So what did I do? I did what every people would have done. I picked up my mobile phone and tried to look busy. What I saw was this is authentic. I had received 3 new friends on Facebook, which is absolutely amazing because I don't have any friends. I work all the time. You might have friends, I don't know. But for me, it was quite fantastic. And I mean, I'm laughing at my wife because she was clicking on the attached invoice that was malwareized. And what did I do you think when I saw this? Yes, I clicked on this one, and it led me into a store that was trying to sell fake Viagra to me. I mean, it could have been a bank Trojan that had been stealing all my money. I could have sitting there with my company mobile phone and let the bad guys into the companies by clicking on this link in the SMS. So I mean, if I can be misled, I'm pretty sure that almost everyone can be misled in the wrong situation. Maybe you're in a hurry, you want to see what the heck is going on the phone, what's in the email or SMS or whatever. So I think we have to be more certain that we are taking this serious enough with the simplest cases of vectors for attacks, namely phishing, smishing, and vishing, and don't be sure who is contacting you. It could be anyone from anywhere. I think I have to stop there. I'm not sure, but if there are any questions, just ask them right out. I haven't muted you out at all.